Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Lucifer Season 1, Episodes 7 and 8. So, as some people may have known by consistently, and this is like the new thing for today for me to talk about this for every one of the reviews, finally, normally I would go on and I would, through this hand, be holding this thing that I would normally do reviews on, which is called a tablet. And so normally I would go on and hold this thing for a number of hours, and it would just be this like kind of thing. But now it seems that, of course, if you are to see this hand, hands free, hands free. We're trying this tripod kind of thing that is kind of to set this up for today. So, because of course we were given this as a gift, so might as well use it. So this is kind of cool. We're gonna see if it seems that recordings are to hold up, like to sound like, of course, like previous recordings, the same as this. Maybe I need to be closer. Maybe I need to be further away. Maybe I'm too close. I don't know. We'll figure that out as we go along. But other than that, it's great. It's great to just kind of finally not feel possibly as usually kind of run down or as tired as when I usually go through these reviews, just kind of like holding a tablet for a number of hours, because it's pretty big tablet, and people may not understand that. It weighs. Strong man, I'm a strong will to survive. Pushing on, anyways. So, speaking of great, we have Lucifer Season 1, Episodes 7 and 8. So, it seems that 7 is a setup for what is to eventually be like kind of like finished up within 8, which is great. We really have some interesting stories here. I like these kind of stories rather than like the normal run-of-the-mill kind of detective things, but it just seems like these stories were actually really interesting, and much more interesting than the kind of the other stuff that I've kind of seen in previous. So within episode 7, we kind of set up that Lucifer is to have a case and Chloe is to have a case. And so it seems that Lucifer is going to try to help out Chloe until it doesn't exactly like help him to help her, and then he's just kind of like, like I don't care. Because once his case technically goes south, like he just goes on and is like, well, I'm not gonna help you. But then in episode 8, we do have a conclusion to Chloe's case, which, if it's not an exact conclusion, it is a thing where we know where like things are going, so to speak. If you know exactly what I'm talking about, you know what I mean. So, plus we have a very interesting case that goes on to episode 8 also. So let me know in the comments below how you feel about these episodes, especially like some people may have enjoyed episode 7 or episode 8, or really some people might have hated it and just like, these episodes suck, because it's like maybe they weren't like, maybe they were thinking that these episodes were too much of a runaround, or I don't know. Let me know in the comments below how you felt about these episodes. So with that said, we also have some, like, a lot of time here where we have Dan and Chloe that are getting close, and there's a reason for that. Where it seems that Chloe is to say that normally Dan would be so like tied up in work, and now it seems that Dan is trying to make it work. If you're kind of hearing some pitter-patter in the background of this video, it is technically raining here, so I don't know how powerful that's going to be, because I'm not going to try and just like stop what I'm doing because of the weather, because it might make a sound of sorts. So sorry, it is what it is. So just being honest. So because it's been doing that like all night. Of course, I picked the one time that all of a sudden it's raining. Great. So within this episode, let's go on to that double 5-time territory. Let's go on into this thing that, of course, is to be called spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time again to spoil these episodes. Let's go into it. Let's go into spoilers. So, since like I had this whole thing, like the whole way of which that I kind of do things has to kind of be like different. It's like trying to figure out how to like place hands and stuff like that for these videos, just because normally I would go on and have like this thing that I've been doing the same old for consistent. So it's different to just kind of approach this now. So with that said, in episode 7, we go on here and we have it where Lucifer is to desperately need to figure out how to find his wings. And so we, of course, in this episode have Lucifer that, like, since he can't find these wings on his own, he at first is to go on and seek out help. Because Lucifer is to find this guy called Sergio, and Mace is to bring him into this hot tub and start to drown him, and then Lucifer comes in and is starting to ask Sergio questions, and it seems that Sergio is to not know anything about these wings, and so Lucifer's like, God, we've shooken down all these men, and we're not getting any like answers anywhere. So we go to have Lucifer, who's like, well, maybe like I should go on and ask other people. So at first, we have Lucifer going on and speaking with Amenadiel, and is trying to ask if Amenadiel can help him out, because when really thinking about it, Amenadiel doesn't want the wings to get out, because it's like, hey, that's like a heavenly item that, of course, is to like get out there, and like everybody will find out that like heaven does really exist, or that that really there is this like certain kind of thing that should not be presented out there. So really, Lucifer is to have possibly said the reasoning for having these wings is to kind of give himself a contingency plan, to have it where if like Earth just does not pan out for him, he can kind of pull the ripcord or pull back on his wings and go right back to hell, if that's really what he wants to do. And so Lucifer is realizing that this contingency plan probably is not really the best way about going about things. So Lucifer, of course, is asking Amenadiel for help, and Amenadiel's like, no, I'm not going to help you out. Like, no, sorry. Like, you're going to have to deal with this on your own, because if anything, we have a Amenadiel that wants Lucifer to just slap back on the wings and make his way back to hell, because Amenadiel is having to deal with all the crap that Lucifer should be doing. And so he's just like, hey man, like, just make it back to hell. Just come on down. Just grab the wings. Like, come on. And Lucifer's like, no. Like, that's not... it's not what I'm doing. So Lucifer goes on and realizes that it's pointless to talk to Amenadiel about this. So Lucifer then turns to his last resort, which is really just Chloe here. So we come to find out that Chloe is also working on a case herself. So Chloe had gone on and been ridiculed and been humiliated by a number of her peers because she, of course, is looking on a dirty cop case that she was involved in. So Chloe is trying to close this case, because come to find out, Dan is to take Chloe to Malcolm Graham's hospital, and it seems that they're going to pull the plug on Graham soon. And so Chloe's like, well, okay, like I need to go on and close off this case, but I need to kind of put the pieces together, but I'm just having like problems trying to figure out this case, like figure out like where is the next like thing of this. There has to be some sense, or there has to be some kind of like thing that I'm just not like pulling together, and I need help. So Lucifer goes on to Chloe, and Lucifer is to have Chloe put out an APB out for Angel Wings, and then Chloe is asking, it's like, well, hey, if you rub my back, I'll rub yours, kind of thing. So like, you're gonna help me with my case, and Lucifer is like, oh, okay, sure, like that seems like a reasonable thing to do. So I don't know how exactly I'm gonna go on and do like because I like to do everything one fell swoop of a thing instead of going on and like having this back and forth crap, because I hate that. I like fluid. Like if I'm gonna go into like the Lucifer case, then I'm gonna go fully into that, and then I'll go into Chloe's case and fully into that. So, like I think I kind of want to focus on Chloe's case, and then we'll get into Lucifer's case. So Lucifer goes on with Chloe into this, like I want to say it's like a boxing gym, because of course we have like the ring in the background, and we have like some like random gym equipment, but it looks mostly like a boxing ring. Maybe it's a wrestling ring, because really that would kind of look the same. But anyways, moving on. So it seems that Chloe is to have Lucifer being the guy that's to be the kind of payout guy, and Dan is going to play, of course, Malcolm, and we have it where Chloe is to kind of play herself in this other room and trying to figure things out. So Chloe's now like picturing herself in this room as she's trying to see this payout happening, and Lucifer is to go on and hand Dan over this money, because he's like, hey, is that not enough to bribe me? So Chloe is in that room, or in her head, and she can't quite figure it out how someone was to have gone on and shot up this detective. She can't figure it out. She can't put the pieces together. Well, we then go on and have Chloe, who of course is going in with Lucifer into this auction place, and she realizes that there is a secret door in this auction. And so she's like, well, wait a minute, maybe there is a secret door in this gym that I wasn't aware of. So Chloe then goes on with Dan, and this really just starts to like start all of Lucifer just kind of complaining like, oh, you and Dan again? Like, so we have Lucifer just consistently within these episodes, like not only calling Detective Douche like out on the fact that he's spending so much time with Chloe, but there's a whole reason for that, because we find out by the end of episode 8 that that Dan is only probably going to be really interested in what Chloe's doing for probably a limited time, and then that might fade away. So, and then Dan might move on to possibly another woman off to the side. But like, it seems like the later and later on we go on these episodes, it seems that like Dan kind of like much more works on himself than works with anybody else, so to speak. It seems like he goes on and he does like improv, like we kind of see that like further down the road somewhere. But yeah, like it seems that Dan just kind of is to really just uh, be a character that eventually is to kind of give us some interesting kind of things in the story. But anyways, let's move on. So Chloe and Dan. Chloe goes and is to find out as they kind of hit around on the ground that it seems that they end up finding a secret door that leads down the stairwell. So they go down this stairwell, and this all of a sudden is to lead to this golden key that is to have the word 999 on it, or 666, the devil. Because I just saw the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, The End of Days, where at some point there was to be this like this paper that this one priest is talking to, like, oh yes, this is the 999, or back around 666. So, because that's the like I think also we had the movie The Omen that had like the kid that had the tattoo of the 999 or 666. Same thing. Anyways, pushing on. So Chloe is to take this key, and she's like, well, wait a minute. Like, this key obviously means that there was some officer, or officer as I like to say it, who was to have committed this crime. Someone would have had to shoot Graham and shoot this guy, bribing away. And so there has to be a cop here. So Chloe goes on and is to go to this party that Pelusi, Anthony here, is having for Graham, thinking that they should go on and probably like kind of celebrate the fact that Graham, they're kind of pulling the plug on Graham here, and he might possibly die. So they're going to go on and kind of possibly do a wake here ahead of time. So Chloe is to go and tell Pelusi here that she is decided to close this case. And that really Pelusi was trying to just go on like, oh, out of all the people to be here, like, she shouldn't be here because she's working on this case. And so Chloe, of course, is telling Pelusi that she's going to close this case. And Pelusi walks off, and Dan and Chloe are kind of off to the side, and Dan is like, yeah, you're not really going to close this case, are you? And Chloe's like, well, no, of course not. I'm going to go on and just try to, like, make everybody think that it's closed, so kind of catch them in the act, you know? So now we have, like, that going on in this episode, and they go on and in the next episode, they kind of do a second parter of this case. So it seems that Graham's wife, or Malcolm Graham's wife, is to pull the plug on her husband. And so we immediately think that this guy is to be dead. Come to find out in the following episode, we find out that this guy had awakened from his coma after life support was being pulled. So, and we see this guy is making a pretty quick recovery from being in this wheelchair to eventually going on and doing some walking around within the next episode. But we'll get to that. I want to focus on the Lucifer case, the loosey goosey of cases. So Lucifer is to put an APP out, and so Dan is to go on and tell Chloe, it's like, well, hey, did you seriously put out an APP for Angel Wings? And Chloe's like, well, yeah, because Lucifer told me to. So Dan is like, okay. So it seems that there was a ping out on that. And so they go on and they find that there is to be some eventual auction happening for this item. and because they're items of divinity. So it seems now that Lucifer is to try one way or another to get into this auction, and so it seems that Lucifer is to go with this place, and all of a sudden, side by side with him is all of a sudden Amenadiel. And Lucifer is to find out that it seems the FBI is going to go on and raid this auction because it seems that these items are possibly stolen, aka the angel wings. So, because Lucifer is talking to Chloe, and Chloe's talking to this FBI guy and saying that they're going to raid this place. So, Lucifer realizes that this is like a timed thing, that he needs to quickly go on and retrieve these wings as quickly as possible. So, Lucifer is to go to this auction, is try to grease some wheels or bribe some security guard to let him in. And the security guard is like, hey, if you don't have business here, I'm not going to let you in. And so Lucifer is like, well, here's the thing. I have an artifact. Because, of course, we had Lucifer, who was to kind of fling around this coin from episodes before. We're going to see that that coin is going to come into real benefit here. Lucifer is to show this coin to this camera, and it's to be the devil's coin. And Lucifer is saying, like, well, this coin may mean something to these people, and maybe I'm going to sell this at auction, so maybe I can go on and have these people be interested in this. So, all of a sudden, we have a guy named Carmen who is to let Lucifer in to try and sell this coin. And so, here we have a Amenadiel that's trying to, like, really show his muscle by kind of scaring these guys and just like, hey man, if you whip your guns out of me, there's nothing that's gonna hurt either one of us. And Lucifer's like, hold on, because Lucifer is telling Amenadiel to kind of like keep his angel ego in check, and Amenadiel is kind of threatening these guys, and so Lucifer's like, calm down, because Lucifer is to say, it's like, well, hey, like, I have this coin here, and so we have Carmen, who's like, well, that'll probably fetch you some pretty good chunk of change, and Lucifer's like, well, that's great and all, but I'm not going to sell this coin. But if anything, like, after, like, guns start to be drawn, Lucifer is changing his tune to just say, like, well, I was to just kind of use this coin as a bargaining chip for me to get in here, so that way I can go on and pay for these items and pay for the angel wings. I'll bid as high as I can possibly bid for them and be able to get you to the divinity that you want. And Carmen's like, oh, okay, well, go on and just go into the auction then. See if you can get these angel wings. So, we have Amenadiel and we have Lucifer that are just kind of waiting for this auction to pop off. And so, Chloe comes in trying to tell Lucifer when the FBI is going to step in. So, we kind of have Lucifer and Amenadiel that's kind of like a race against time here. So, we at first go on and have the first thing be at auction with these like St. Paul chains, of course. And we have Lucifer and Amenadiel talking, and they're like, wait a minute, like, these aren't Paul's chains. Like, that's so inaccurate, because if anything, like, they should have been way bigger than that. So that's like false advertisement right then and there. So Lucifer shouts out to them, it's like, hey, yeah, this is false advertisement. Like, that's not even close to what the real thing was. And so they start bidding and whatever. So the next thing is up to be, of course, the angel wings. All of a sudden, the FBI comes storming in. Everybody's like, whoa, what's going on? Pow, pow. Yeah, whoa. all of a sudden, we have Lucifer turning to Amenadiel and telling him, "Hey, could you put this all on pause?" And Amenadiel's like, "Okay," and everything is to be put on pause. We also had a moment where Lucifer was also telling Amenadiel that he is now technically mortal. That at one point he was to plead, and Amenadiel is like, "Well, all the more reason for you to come back to hell. Or even if you die, guess where you're going." So we have a Amenadiel that's telling Lucifer, it's like, "Man, I can't wait for someone to just pop you. I can't wait for some thug or something like that to just shoot you, and immediately you're going to go right back to hell. And, like, what are you going to do?" So Lucifer goes on, and so Amenadiel is to put this all on pause. Lucifer goes on and checks the wings and realizes that the wings are fake. They're not the real. They're not the real McCoy here. They're fake. They're some like made in Taiwan kind of wings. And so Lucifer's like, "Wow, really? Wow." So Lucifer's like, "I did all of this for nothing. What a jip." So all of a sudden Lucifer is to now just like, "God, where are these wings? Where could they be?" And so we have Lucifer that is to go on and realize that maybe these wings were so valuable that maybe Carmen himself could not go on and like not keep the angel wings himself. So Lucifer storms Carmen's place and is to find the angel wings in some case where he's just like, "Really? Like, these are mine." And like you're storing them away like some trophy and some garbage like that. I'm paraphrasing here, but you know. So we have Carmen here who's like, "Well, yeah, but I can't live without them. I can't I need them." And I realized how really valuable they really were. And Lucifer's like, "Well, too bad." Like Lucifer is going to take what is his and is to go on, and I would have just tortured the out of this guy, but instead, it just seems like Lucifer is to take what was his. And so the next thing we see is Lucifer is at this beach. And so Lucifer is to have his wings like on both sides of him. Like they're not on, but they're just kind of on the ground. So Lucifer calls Amenadiel over, and so we have Lucifer talking to Amenadiel here, and come to find out, Lucifer is to realize that Amenadiel was the one who was to have called the whole FBI raid. And so Lucifer was, I guess, realizing that Amenadiel was trying to get Lucifer back into hell, and what better way to kind of scare him by like taking away his contingency plan to force Lucifer to probably put back on these wings. And so Lucifer is just so upset with his own brother that he burns his wings to just say like, "Oh, okay, well, like I now just realized that I'm like I took this as a scapegoat, but it basically like backfired on me." So now Lucifer is burning his own wings to tell his brother that he's never going back, that he's staying here and there's nothing that Amenadiel is going to do to the point where Amityville is to punch his own brother. And so, because we just have both of them, like, Amityville knew about these wings. And so, within these episodes also, we have Lucifer, who is to also possibly realize that Maze was to also be conspiring to forcibly try to get him back into hell. And so Lucifer is to not only turn on his own, or is to basically like be very upset with his own brother, but then also he is upset with Maze to the point of where like Lucifer is to really just be upset with the two people that are just forcing him to want to go back to hell, to where Lucifer's like, no, like, I'm not going to come back. It's not going to happen. No. Mm-mm. So, in episode 8, we go on in episode 8, and Chloe still has to solve her case, as well as Chloe is to have yet another case. So, Chloe, of course, is to have this case where we have this doctor, this therapist doctor, that is to have this therapy by cheating. Basically meaning, I guess, in hopes to solve someone's marriage, a person should go on and sleep with some other person to solve this marriage. And it's all under some weird doctrine-like thing. So we have this Dr. Shaw, and so we have Lucifer that is immediately thinking like, man, this doctor had the right idea. I'm like, really, Lucifer? Like, of course. Like, he would just go on and just say like, yeah, like, cheating is a good thing, even though it's not. But yeah, like, of course we'd have Lucifer's like, yeah, yeah, that's great. All of the doctor's like teachings was absolutely correct. So within this episode, we also have Chloe. Chloe is to go on here and she is to have Lucifer's birthday be today. So Chloe and Dan are bringing Lucifer some very odd alcohol that is to be like this whiskey with like pig juice, I think, because it's a tradition. Lucifer, of course, is to take it, and he's like, man, it's kind of like something salty there, like maybe Maze will like this. So Chloe and Dan are saying that they have to go on and leave because they have to go to this kind of police party. And Lucifer's like, really? The party just got started here. And Chloe and Dan are like, I'm sorry, we have to go. And she's like, oh, okay, all right, go on. So Chloe and Dan are to go to this party. And Chloe and Dan are possibly thinking that this is to be like, whoever is probably not going to be here is probably going to be the person that they might suspect. So we have both Pelusi and we have Graham who are at this party, because it seems like Graham is to be in this wheelchair, but then he ends up kind of walking out of the wheelchair, to mention that it's going to be soon that he's going to be able to start walking again, like showcasing right out of the gate that this guy is making some pretty good strides as recovery. So even within this episode, we're going to see him starting to walk around. So Graham is to, of course, talk to Chloe, and he's to be just so relieved that Chloe is actually to be the one working on this case, or working on the case of what happened to him. And so we go on later on in this episode, and Chloe, of course, to get this text from, or this, like, I think it's a text from Dan stating that he had gotten, like, something on his shirt. And Chloe runs off to try and help Dan. And that's when Lucifer's like, seriously? Like, so it's just going to be like one of those, like, old-fashioned jokes where Dan is to, like, say that he has something on his shirt that he needs to go and get it cleaned, and then all of a sudden, whoops, his trousers. Oh no. Oh man, like he just needs to clean off everything. And so Lucifer is just getting very jealous within this episode, to the point of us having Linda to be kind of put into this episode, which I'm like, yeah, like I really like Linda being used in this episode. So because we have Lucifer that is to talk with Linda and want Linda to help figure out Chloe and how they can go on and have Lucifer, like, stop having Chloe be so like tied up into Detective Douche. And so really Lucifer is just trying to figure that Chloe needs some therapy here, and maybe Linda being tied to this case will force Lucifer to continue to try and have Linda try to figure out Chloe, when it's really like Lucifer who should be going on and be needing some help trying to recover from his jealousy, obviously. And Linda is also to bring up the whole, like, Lucifer punching the wall thing, and like, oh my god, like, continuity. Continuity in a show, folks. I don't know how many times I would probably complain about a show that doesn't have enough continuity in it, as if, like, there's so many things that are, like, bubbled within it, to where, like, in Big Bang Theory, I would complain about there being the one episode about Leonard Day, and then you would never go on in any other episode and there would ever be a reference or anything to Leonard Day. Like, it would be that kind of thing where, like, Big Bang Theory tends to, like, bottle everything in every episode. And I'm like, man, you could have had, like, a bajillion callbacks from a bajillion different episodes, and there never really was. Like, we would go on and consistently have it where they could have really gone on and had a number of callbacks from season whatever. But I get it, because I think, like, the way that they probably did this show is to never do, like, callbacks. But anyways, continuity. Anyways, I love continuity. So, Lucifer is to go on, and so this case is to require a certain therapist to kind of back check through all of this Dr. Shaw's cases. And we have it where Chloe is wanting to think about which doctor she wants to go on and use for this case. And Lucifer is like, well, obviously it's Linda. Just go on and have her do this. And Chloe's like, no, like, I'm not going to pick that doctor, because there was times before where she was to be so consumed by you and want to be seduced by you that, like, no, like, I'm not going to go and pick that doctor. So we go on and we have Lucifer that is to go and sleep with this judge that is to force Chloe's hand to sign this paperwork that says that Linda is going to go on and do this, as, like, Lucifer is going to go and gavel a lady, so to speak. In all respect, he's probably going to go on and maybe gavel himself. Who knows? We don't really see much after that, but we get some sheet rumbling, if you know what I mean. So Lucifer goes and is to realize that it's like, well, like, sucks to be you. You're going to have to work with Linda. And Chloe's just like, okay, fine. So within Linda thumbing around through all of Shaw's cases, it seems that there was to be a Richard Kester that, of course, was to go on and possibly have some real issues going on with him. And so we have, of course, us realizing that when they are to find Richard Kester, who, of course, I've seen him on a Community. I was like, oh my god, that's the guy from Community. Like, I know he's done like a bajillion other things, like Sky High and a number of other things, but it was just kind of cool, like seeing Jim Rash here. I was like, yeah, because I always thoroughly enjoyed him on Community, like the goofy principal that is like really be into like Joel McHale's character. It was really funny. So Richard Kester, we find out that this guy is to be like kind of in a bad straits. And so he is to be on the top of this building. And I'm immediately thinking like Lethal Weapon. Like if anybody's to remember the first like Lethal Weapon movie where like the one guy is going to jump and so Mel Gibson goes up there like, do you really want to jump? Do you really want to? So it's like, this guy's crazy. And so they both jump together in the Lethal Weapon movie after like Glover like pulls Mel aside and he's like, you really are crazy. Man, Lethal Weapon. Oh, I should probably go and eventually review that at some point, but I'll probably forget about it. But Lethal Weapon, especially the first one, so good. Anything that probably happened after that, it is what it is. But the original, like, Lethal Weapon actually is a pretty good movie. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out, because there's some people that have never seen certain films, which honestly need to be seen. Moving on. Do you really want to jump? No. Pushing on. So, Lucifer is going on and is to be the one to talk with Richard. Out of all the people to probably go on and talk a man off the ledge, I don't think Lucifer is the guy to go to, if you know what I mean. But of course it would be, because it's whose title of show? Lucifer. So, yeah, what do you think? So, Lucifer is the first one up there, and so Lucifer is talking to Richard, and so the reason why Richard is to want to jump here is because his doctor, his therapist, had died. And really, like, Richard did depend on this guy, because come to find out, like, this guy would, even if Richard didn't afford the treatment, this doctor would still just say, like, hey, come on, like, let's go on and, like, let's work through your issues. Let's work through your problems, because, like, this doctor really wanted to help this guy. And so Richard was to have, like, divorce problems and have everything go horribly awry. So we have it where immediately Richard is to not really be the case here, but it seems that it could be possible that it could actually be Dr. Shaw's wife instead, because come to find out, Richard was to realize that it seems that Dr. Shaw was possibly doing his own treatment and was possibly having an affair of his own. So we have it, of course, where after Dr. Shaw was to be found dead, and I guess it was to be a crime of passion, we had his wife, who of course was Sandy here, being comforted seemingly by some doctor, Dr. Jonathan, Medina. So we have, of course, Lucifer call, like, Dr. Medina the tissue man. Are you the tissue man? So it seems that Dr. Jonathan was a shoulder for Sandy here to cry on. And so we have it where Lucifer is to go back with Sandy, and coming to find out, Sandy was waiting for this therapy group to be finished up because Sandy was going to chuck a ton of crap on this girl. She had a bunch of fertilizer that she was gonna, or maybe she literally was taking dumps in bags. I don't know. I don't know what Sandy's life is. Like, I don't know if that was legitimately her own poop. Why would she be storing that up? That seems very weird. Or maybe this girl just had like a lot of tacos one day. I don't know. I don't know Sandy's life. Let me know in the comments below what you think the real poop was. Maybe she was going through a dog park. I don't know. Maybe she was trying to save the rainforest from all that poop. I don't know. Pushing on. So they stop Sandy from going and chucking poop on this girl. And Dan is to be coming by and is to, of course, be talking to Chloe, because Chloe, after getting that whole message about Dan in his shirt, Chloe goes back to her place, and so Graham is talking to Chloe, mentioning that, like, hey, we're on the same side, like, I want to solve this case just as much as you do, and like Graham wanted her to meet here, so that way they have kind of like no prying eyes and whatever. So Dan is like wanting to help out Chloe and wanting to try and figure things out. So Graham goes off, and so Dan is kind of ticked about the whole. I almost said something else there. Dan is a little ticked off about like, oh, if Graham was to hurt you, I got him. Yeah, knight in shining armor, so on and so forth. So Chloe's just like, well, yeah, like he didn't do anything. It's fine. So like he just wanted to know like we're on the same side kind of deal. So it seems that they need to go on and find out who this Kappa is, who this Runamucka is, and they will supposedly by the end of this episode. But I don't know. We'll get to that. So, anyways, the other case, the doctor case. So we have Sandy, who is to know that her husband was to have an affair. So it wasn't Sandy that was doing the killing. So who could it have been? So Lucifer is to go to this group session that is to have, I believe, Tiffany there. And so Tiffany is to have been the one that was to be thrown this thing called poop on, possibly after this whole group session was over. So we consistently have Lucifer that is asking other people besides her own therapist about jealousy. And so Lucifer at first is asking Richard about jealousy, and it doesn't really seem that he could have gotten any answer from him. And so maybe Lucifer is looking for someone else to go on and possibly figure out if he really is jealous or not. So Lucifer is talking to Tiffany, and it seems that Lucifer is not going in the direction of Tiffany to think that this is going to be the culprit of this case here. No. Instead, we have Lucifer going into another direction, which is really just Dr. Jonathan. And so Lucifer is to say here that Jonathan seems to have been the one to have immediately comforted Sandy as this guy was to be killed. So it seems here that Lucifer is to find Dr. Jonathan suspicious. And so we have Dr. Jonathan here that confesses that he's like, yeah, I've always wanted Sandy, and like that guy had cheated and was never good for her. And so we have Dr. Jonathan with this knife, and he's like at the throat with Lucifer. And so while Lucifer is talking to this Dr. Jonathan, he's realized, like, you know what? Like, this is obviously like unbridled jealousy. And when Lucifer is talking to Dr. Jonathan, conversing here, he's realizing that, like, you and me have nothing alike. So, like, I'm not jealous. Like, you and I are not the same person. So, like, okay, so I guess I'm not really jealous here, but really he actually is. You know what I'm saying? He's jelly. He's tipping toes into that jelly. You know what I'm saying? So, we have Chloe, who is to grab Dr. Jonathan and is to try to get the knife away from Jonathan and is to go on and arrest this guy. And so we have this kind of like this like wrapping up of this whole case, but we now have another case that has to go on and wrap itself up. So come to find out, we have Chloe, who is to meet up with Anthony Pellucci. And immediately when I saw that Anthony was only going to be in 3 episodes of Lucifer, something in my brain was just like, yeah, this guy isn't going to last very long for some odd reason. So we have Chloe that goes on to Pellucci at this bar. Come to find out, this guy had taken a shotgun to his own head, and he had left this suicide note committing or convincing people that he was to have gone on and shot these people. And so we have them going on and thinking like, oh, now we can shut this case and all, it's like, it's all wrapped up and everything is good and great and in the world and whatever. So we just have this moment where, of course, like Dan and Chloe are just kind of hugging it out because like they're finally like done with this whole thing. They can move on and all this rigmarole. Come to find out, Dan is to get this text after, of course, he is to be with Chloe and they're kissing and they're hand touching and they're feeling one another out to just say like, there is something really still there. Maybe. Probably. So as like Dan is to go on and read this book 5 times to Trixie at some point. Trixie hasn't been in these episodes. I'm very sad about that because normally for kids they would try to go on and like they wouldn't have them in every single episode because a lot of times a lot of shows or movies would tell you like the hardest people to work with are either children's or pets. And if you have a pet and a child, youngin, the young things, the young ones, the younglings, they're difficult to work with. Especially if they're like babies. Like, you want a baby to cry and the baby's like, yeah? Like, you're not really going to get a good take. Hence why I think a lot of times when you would have like babies on a lot of movies and a lot of shows, normally they would be fake babies. That's obvious. There's a lot of times where I'm just like, wait a minute. Like, that's not obviously an actual baby. Like, they just kind of wrapped this whole thing and made it look like there's a baby underneath there. But, like, you can't pull the wool over my eyes to just be like, I'm sorry. Like, that baby isn't made of peep in XYZ moments of time. Like, come on, show. Really? I would be hearing a baby cry, because especially with how freaking there's sometimes you see like a whole towel worth of baby. There's something suspicious about that. But anyways, so mood point. So we go on here and we have Dan, who's making back to the office. And we just immediately think that it's probably just some like loose end or something. Come to find out, Graham is talking to Dan here. And so we find out that Dan was the man to have shot both Graham and this kind of informant. Graham was also telling Chloe that that Graham wasn't bribing anybody, that Graham was actually like paying this guy for information. So it was legit, I guess it was on the level, but it like also just felt very like shady. Um so like everything that they were doing was like legitimate, but I'm not quite sure why Dan did what he did. So I guess that might unravel in other episodes or other things eventually at some point, having us kind of unravel that case a little bit more because it just feels like there's something that doesn't feel right there. Because we find out that Dan was to have gone on and shoot or shot Graham and this informant, and that it seemed that Graham was to write the confession note himself, and Dan was like, "Well, hey, like you don't really seem like a guy that is to be good with words," and Graham is like, "No, it took me forever," like telling us that like they had this whole thing planned, and that Graham at some point is going to have Dan kind of dangling on a string to like have at some point Graham using Dan because really it's either that or Graham can go on and tell people that Dan did this. But anyways, so yeah, so we're having it where like the story continues, interesting things unfold here. So with that said, I think that covers most of this episode. Let me know in the comments below if I forgot about a bajillion things, because I'm sure that I did. Let me know if there was anything that I forgot about, but without a doubt, I think I'm just going to get out of here. Let me know in the comments below how you felt about this episode or episodes. But yeah, other than that, I'm going to get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy.